I'm here at Microsoft's Redmond campus, and I have somehow convinced them to let me take apart their new Xbox One X. And now you're gonna come along with me as I reassemble the entire thing, starting at the very base with the Scorpio engine.
iBuyPower and MSI's new lineup of gaming laptops feature Intel 7th generation Core i7 processors. Check them out at the link below.
We're going to start with the heart of the system, the Scorpio engine, as I mentioned earlier. It's what insiders call an SoC, or system on a chip. That means that it has your CPU and GPU on board. The CPU is 8 cores running at 2.3 gigahertz, and the GPU is running at 1.72 gigahertz with 40 CUs at 6 teraflops per second. And it has other various Polaris features as well, as this was a combined project with AMD. You can't just go buy this chip. It was made for the Xbox One X. Circling around the Scorpio engine, you have 12 gigs of GDDR5 memory running at 326 gigabytes per second, and this entire area is cooled by one large vapor chamber cooler that has an area in the bottom, this is why it's called vapor chamber, that has liquid in it, and it actually evaporates from the bottom of this area just to the top and naturally goes to the colder areas of this copper plate before cooling through the fins. Psst, by the way, if you want to hear more about vapor chamber cooling, check out our Tech Cookie video on it right up here. Flipping over to the back side of the board, we have the South Bridge and 8 gigs of onboard flash, which is used both for housing part of the operating system and as a cache for the hard drive. Said hard drive just goes into this little corner in the front and actually has some cool tech going on around it. It is a Seagate 1 terabyte hard drive, but it is on suspended elastic housing so that vibrations from the hard drive shouldn't interfere with the rest of the case or make any noise or bother anything. And that gets carried forward to this plastic block, which manages the cables coming out from the hard drive to ensure that they don't touch anything else, like the optical drive that's mounted above it. To connect it with the actual system, it's just a SATA port directly across from the plastic block and a power connector directly across from the SATA port. All of the airflow from the Xbox One X is generated by this 120mm radial fan, whose shroud encases the CPU heatsink that we covered earlier. So it goes right over top like this. Now the power supply, similar to the One S, is internal, but that's where the similarities end. It is over twice the wattage capabilities of the One S at 245 watts. It plugs in through 2 pins on the bottom, which goes into the board right here. And all you have to do to put it in is line it up, push it down, and you're done. It receives airflow from that radial fan that we mentioned earlier, channels out this way, shoots air out of the back, and you're good. Last of the internal components, but not least, is the 4K UHD Blu-ray drive, which has a sticker on it that says engineering sample in big text, which I just absolutely love. The cables for this are not here, but it would essentially just plug in just barely under the power supply over here, and installation of it is brain dead easy. Just drop it on right there, and you're done. Now that all the components are in, our next step is to add this metal shroud and some screws in order to hold everything together. But one quick note before we do that, this honeycomb mesh right here is really impressive. If you look at other parts of this system, the meshing, the metal between the holes, is actually fairly standard. It's thick. In this area, it cannot be described as thick. It is extremely thin. It's actually more thin than the thickness of the metal at all, which is kind of insane. They had to come up with their own method of punching to do this, and they did assure me it's still a form of punching. That's pretty crazy. To put the internal body together, all you need to do is place it on top, make sure that you got it around everything, and push down fairly gently, and then you're pretty good to go. Next up is screws. You need to drop those in their respective places, which are fairly straightforward, and then tighten them down. The outer body, the parts that you actually really see when you handle your Xbox One X, is in 2 parts, the top and the bottom. Nope. Bottom and the top. We're gonna start with the bottom. First, you have to hook it over top of the optical drive, as there's like a few different grabbing points that need to line up there. And then you're gonna pull it around the top, press down, and there's a couple screws to insert on the back, but again, I don't have the screws for that, so just don't worry about that part. What should I do? Oh. Assembly complete. Now all we have to do is just make sure that it works. In order to do that, we'll just turn it on. So, just gonna press the power button in the front. And it works! We're good! Now the I/O on the Xbox One X is essentially the same as the I/O on the Xbox One S, which is cool because if you want to transfer cables over, it's just a one-to-one, no complications there. You've got power, HDMI out, which has a little bump on it, so if you're feeling from the front of the Xbox, you don't want to pull it all the way out, you can tell where your cable is supposed to go. HDMI in for TV signals, 2 USB 3 ports, an IR out if you want to extend your controller, SPDIF, and Ethernet. On the front of the unit, we have an IR receiver, an optical drive eject button for the optical drive that is right above it, a controller pairing button, another USB port, and the standard Xbox power button. Also, please note, if you don't have an Ethernet cable or don't want to plug in for whatever reason, you can just use the built-in 802.11ac Wi-Fi.
Anker's SoundBuds Curve wireless headphones feature aptics, HD music, and CVC noise cancellation for clear phone calls, customizable ear tips for a good fit, and ear wings to keep the headphones in place during workouts. They boast 12.5 hours of music time, and a 10-minute charge will give you an hour of listening. They've got a water-resistant shell, and included in the box, you get the SoundBuds Curve, multiple ear tips, silicone and memory foam, ear wings, a cord management clip, a shirt clip, a micro USB cable, a PU leather carrying pouch, and an aluminum carabiner. Check them out at Amazon through the link below.
Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the video, get subscribed. Hit that little bell thing so that it sends you notifications every freaking time we upload a video, which is every day. That's a fair amount of notifications, but we upload cool stuff, so you should actually check it out. If you like the video, like it. If you dislike it, dislike it. Check out the links down in the description below. We have sponsor links down there. There should be a link of where you can pre-order this thing, but we're filming this way in advance to when this video is gonna come out, so hopefully that's an option. And yeah, I'll see you next time.